right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Tonight's shir, tonight's class, has been dedicated by Rebbe Lazar Frankel. And this is in honor of, first, his grandfather's yahrzeit, that is going to be on Shabbos, the 19th of Sivan. Chanoich Henach ben Meshulam Zalman Olav Hashalom. And also his father's yahrzeit, which comes out 2 days later, on the 21st of Sivan, Chaf Aleph Sivan, Meshulam Zalman ben Reb Chanoich Henach. May Hashem elevate their souls to the greatest, greatest, greatest of heights, higher and higher and then higher, and may they both channel lots of brachas to you, to your family, for all that you want and all that you need, and then some extra, with abundance. Abundance, abundance, abundance. This is the perfect week to dedicate a shir or something for someone, for a neshama, because that's the whole meaning of the name of the parsha. Beha'aloshcha is when you will light, when you will elevate the lamps, when you will lift up the lamps of the souls. So what a week, what a week, what a schus. Should be a big aliyas neshama for him. The next dedication this week, this is on the CD. This is for the Abitan family. By the way, I just want to let everyone know, recently there have been some weeks that we had CDs, other weeks that we don't have CDs. Just like to give you the reason for that. The classes are posted online. You can listen to them in many ways. You can listen to them on Maayon.com. We have a few thousand classes. The last 10 years of classes all posted, or most of them are posted, on Maayon.com. You can also listen to them on the Maayon app. We have a special app, Maayon, so you can pick it up on your Android or on your iPhone. Just go to your app store. It's a free app, download it, you have all the classes. Then you can listen and tune in live to every class that happens over here on Facebook and on YouTube. Maayon has a YouTube channel. You can subscribe to it. And you get the video of the class live. So Baruch Hashem. And then we also have a podcast. So really, really, really trying to deliver these classes through all the avenues possible. So there's so many ways to get them. Now, I do know that there are so many wonderful people who are just out of the comfort and out of the habit of not being, not having the time to get your phone and listen to the whole class with headphones, or to sit down by a computer and watch the class. But you're more comfortable. What you got used to is picking up the CD in one of the local markets or the shul and popping them in your car, which is fantastic. As a result of that, I do the CDs like we used to do. However, our CD machine has been giving us a lot of anguish, and it's not working now. So I have to outsource the CDs, and it's a very big cost. So I only do that if we have a CD sponsor. That's why you've had quite a few weeks that didn't have CDs, being that I would like everyone to start listening to the classes online so we can do less with the CDs. CDs are getting out of style, and get more into the other manners. But I do want to do CDs because it's still a way in which hundreds of people listen to the classes when the class is available. When the class is available on CD. So I really, really want to thank the Abitan family for sponsoring this week's CD. And they sponsored this CD in honor of their very, very special father, a very dear friend of mine, and I would say a pillar in this community. Someone who added so much energy and life, just life, to this community. Our dear friend Meir Abitan Olav Hashalom passed away a few years ago suddenly. Meir ben Shlomo Olav Hashalom on Chaf Aleph Sivan. Next Sunday night will be his yahrzeit. May his neshama have the greatest aliyah. And may he already have completed the work up there corresponding to the work we're doing down here for the final push of the redemption. Because that is and always was the energy and the thrust in Meir Abitan. So the Eibusher should give him already what he desires so much, the final redemption. And Aliyas Neshama, and a lot of big blessings to the entire Abitan family. It's all in the package. It should all come in the revealed good. Thank you. Okay, we're about to begin the class on Parshas Beha'aloshcha. So the parsha begins with a mitzvah of lighting the menorah. Beha'aloshcha saneros, it's a commandment to light the menorah. And there's 3 verses, or I would say 4 psukim in the beginning of the parsha, through Pasuk Dalid, talking about lighting the menorah. First verse is, Hashem speaks to Moshe saying, that's not Pasuk Aleph. Pasuk Beis says, Daber al Aaron, speak to Aaron, V'amar te'elev, and tell him, Beha'aloshcha saneros, when you will raise the lamps, when you will kindle the lamps, El mul pnei hamenorah ye'iru shiva saneros. You should make sure that you light them, that all the 6 side flames should be tilting towards the center of the menorah. There is the middle part of the menorah, which is, the menorah had 7 branches, 7 lamps. So this 7-branched candelabra, all the lamps should be tilting towards the middle. That's the second pasuk. Third pasuk is that Aaron did so. Vayas kain Aaron al mul pnei hamenorah. Aaron the high priest, when he lit the menorah, he did it the appropriate way. Towards the center of the menorah, Helena Risa, he lifted or he raised the lamps. When he lit it, he kindled it in a way that it should all burn towards the middle. Kashatziv Hashem es Moshe, like Hashem commanded Moshe. That's the 3rd verse. And finally, the 4th pasuk is, V'zem ma'isa hamenorah. Suddenly the pasuk tells us, this is the work of the menorah. Meaning, this is the way the menorah was made, or needed to be made. Miksha, it was hammered out, zahav, out of gold. That means the menorah was not put together from different pieces. The menorah was one piece of gold. It was chiseled out from one piece of gold. Ad yerecha, ad pircha, from its main, yerecha actually means its hip, which is from its base. Yerecha is its base, the bottom of the menorah. Ad pircha, until the tiny little flower. Meaning as Rashi explains, it means from the most largest part of the menorah to the most smallest detail, it was all had to be hammered out from one piece of gold. In the way that God showed Moshe, so the menorah was made. Fine. Those are the first 4 psukim in this week's parsha dealing with the menorah. And for that, the entire parsha is called Beha'aloshcha, which means when you will light the lamps. The rest of the parsha doesn't talk at all about lighting lamps. The question I have for you tonight is as follows. This is a question that the Abar Benel asks, and the Alshich asks, and the Orach Chaim HaKadosh asks. So we have 3 of the great commentators, who asked the question. We understand now, for whatever reason, the Torah is telling us the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. Now, Rashi actually explains why it was stated over here, because this comes in continuation to last week, where in the end of the parsha it speaks about the inauguration sacrifices that the princes of each tribe brought. Every day another prince brought certain karbanos, certain offerings for the inauguration of the tabernacle of the Mishkan. And Rashi says that Aaron felt bad that he was not participating. Shevet Levi did not have a inauguration day. The Levites, did not have a day where they were the ones that were inaugurating the Mishkan. So they felt bad, and Aaron felt bad. So Hashem told him, don't feel bad, because even though they are inaugurating the Mizbeach, but you light the menorah every day. That's what Rashi explains. And lighting the menorah, for whatever reason, is superior. And that's why the Torah puts this mitzvah over here. Good, I get it. The question, however, they ask, again, the Alshich, the Abar Benel, the Orach Chaim, is the verse number 4. Pasuk Dalid seems to be out of place. What's Pasuk Dalid doing over here? We're talking about the mitzvah to light the menorah. And again, the main commandment that the Torah is telling us, the Torah is not telling us much detail about lighting the menorah. That's already discussed. We're still going to get to it in different places in the Torah where it talks about the mitzvah in all of its detail. Here the Torah gives us one detail about the menorah. When you light the menorah, make sure that all the lamps are pointing towards the center. They're all burning towards the middle. That's the commandment. So if that's what you want to tell me, fine. Where does the fourth verse come over here, which tells you that the menorah has to be hammered out of one piece? The making of the menorah has been discussed already earlier in Parshas Terumah. In Parshas Terumah, all the way in Exodus and in Shemos, over there the Torah talks about constructing a Mishkan, and it tells us how to construct all the vessels, and it tells us about the menorah, and it actually says over there that it has to be hammered out of one piece of gold. Fine. Where and how does this verse about the making, that the menorah has to be made out of one piece, how does that end up over here? Again, how the story about lighting the menorah ends up over here, or the commandment about lighting it, that we know already, because that is coming to comfort Aaron, the high priest, why he wasn't participating in the other sacrifices. So we're telling him, this is your mitzvah, this is very special. Okay, but how does this detail and about the menorah being one menorah, what is it doing over here in Parshas Beha'aloshcha? The interesting thing is it's a simple question, and it's a question that if anybody's reading with a little concentration, it will pop out right at you. What's this doing over here? It seems out of place. And Rashi is silent. Rashi doesn't say anything about it. And we know that Rashi is our clarifier. He clarifies every problem that we have when we learn Chumash, and if Rashi doesn't say something, it's because Rashi knows you'll figure it out on your own. So there must be something over here of why Rashi doesn't say anything about this big question about what's this pasuk doing over here. Now, Ramban, Nachmanides, offers an answer, even though he doesn't specifically really ask the question explicitly, what's it doing over here, but he kind of answers it without asking the question. He says, the reason, V'tam Amikra, the reason we have this pasuk over here is because this verse is teaching you a new halacha. What's the halacha it's teaching you? A new law, a very important thing. That this mitzvah that we're supposed to, the menorah needs to be hammered out of one piece. It's a one-piece menorah. It can't be put together from different pieces. It has to be one chunk, one original piece, is something that is applicable for all future generations. In other words, even though in Parshas Terumah it told us initially when we built the Mishkan that the menorah, it tells us about all the vessels all the vessels that were in the tabernacle and the Mishkan. And over there it gave you the mitzvah that the menorah needs to be made out of one piece. So we might think that that's only the initial menorah that was initially built by Moshe and the Mishkan. But in the future generations, when you will make a new menorah, you don't have to keep that menorah for whatever reason. If that menorah did not last its way and they're going to make a new menorah for your future generations, you might think that the menorah does not have to be from one piece, that detail is not important, because it does say that the menorah doesn't have to be made with all the details that it says. It's only for the Mishkan that it had to have all those, the certain amount of flowers and a certain amount of they had designs that looked like cups and so on. That was for the first Mishkan. Not every menorah needed to be made necessarily like that. Even this, that it needs to be made out of gold, is not an absolute thing. If they didn't have a gold menorah, they can use a menorah made out of wood. It didn't have to. But the first menorah, yeah, which Hashem told Moshe about it later. But the Torah wants to tell you that there's one thing that's an absolute must in the menorah. It can't be a menorah put together from pieces. It can't be an assembled menorah. Whichever material you're going to use, it has to be hammered out from one piece. That's an absolute must, and that's why the Torah teaches you, that's what Ramban tells us, that's the significance of why the pasuk says, Miksha Tasas HaMenorah. This special verse is telling us that halach. Okay, wonderful. Nachmanides gives us an answer. We probably can say that maybe Rashi intends a simple answer like that as well, is that this verse is needed to teach you that this would apply for future generations. The problem with saying that in Rashi is twofold. Number one, if we go back and we remember when we learned Parshas Terumah, it says right at the beginning, in Parshas Terumah, right at the beginning of the Parsha, it says that you should do everything the way I am going to show you. V'chein tasu. Everybody remembers the pasuk. V'asu li migdash v'shachanti b'socham. Make for me a Beis HaMikdash, a sanctuary, and I'm going to live amongst you. And then it says over there, do it the way I will show you. V'chein tasu, and so you should do. So Rashi says, explicitly over there, that those extra words, and so you should do, is teaching you that for all future generations, whenever you're going to make vessels, you should make them similar to the vessels I'm showing you now. So Rashi clearly is of the opinion that the future vessels are supposed to be imitations or carbon copies of the first one. And therefore we can say that that special halacha that it needs to be hammered is something that we know already according to Rashi from Parshas Truma, so the pasuk would not have to have repeated it, the verse would not have to have repeated this halacha over here. Another thing, another reason why, according to Rashi, we can't accept that that's the reason why it says it, is because this itself, that what is Ramban saying? What is Nachmanides saying? His chiddush is that this is for future generations, it also needs to be done this way. Well, this halacha itself should have been said in the Parsha of the Menorah. The Parsha of the Menorah is stated already earlier in Parshas Truma, where it speaks about making the Menorah. So over there, or I'll give you another one, in Parshas Tetzaveh, right after Truma, Parshas Tetzaveh, the Torah tells you about the mitzvah of lighting the menorah, and it tells you how to take Shem and Zayazach, take pure olive oil, blah, blah, blah. Over there, the Torah should have told you already this thing, that so it should be made for all generations, it has to be hammered out. Could have said it earlier. And if you're not going to say it in Shemois, for whatever reason, then the Torah had another chance. When? In Parshas Emor, in Leviticus and Vayikra. In Parshas Emor, just a few weeks ago. There is a parsha over there, an entire, meaning a parsha, meaning a paragraph, where the Torah speaks about the mitzvah of lighting the lamps. How the mitzvah is a daily mitzvah, and it tells Aaron how he's supposed to light the lamps on a menorah, tahora, whatever the verse says. And it's called, Rashi refers to that parsha, Parshas Haneros. That's the main parsha of kindling the menorah, is in Parshas Emor. Okay? And over there it says specifically, Lidoro Seichem, that this commandment is for all generations. Again, in the pasuk in Parshas Emor, it says Lidoro Seichem, for all generations. If that's the case, if Emor is coming to teach you that for all generations, so over there the Torah should have added that one word, miksha, make it hammered, so you will also know that for all generations, the menorah must be a hammered menorah. Why would this halacha wait until over here in Parshas Bamidbar in Numbers, in this third parsha in Beha'aloshcha, and over here suddenly with a halacha that the menorah for all generations has to be hammered out? That's the question. So let's explore this a little further. Now, I am going to tell you something. This class today is a little technical at the beginning, but it's very rich. It's very rich. So it's worth it a little bit. This is Torah. Torah, you gotta, we just got the Torah on Shavuos. Gotta apply your mind, gotta apply your brain. Don't fall asleep on me over here. Listen in, enjoy. Because the reason I'm giving this class, it's interesting. I'm not going to be talking about Mashiach. I don't want to disappoint over here. I'm not talking about Mashiach tonight. And everybody's, but the answer is, it's not because Mashiach is off my mind. It's never off my mind. I am not talking about Mashiach because the entire class is Mashiach. Why? Because what are we going to do after Mashiach comes? After Mashiach comes, what's Mashiach? Mashiach is the pleasure of Torah. Till now we're busy with other stuff. When Mashiach comes, everything is going to change. We're not going to be busy with anything. We're going to be able to marinate in Torah. And that kind of Torah study is going to be pleasurable. So tonight we have a little taste of Mashiach, because if you pay attention tonight, you will enter into a deep, deep, deep pleasurable state. It's very, very rich. So this Torah with its delight, and it involves some ideas, putting it all together. But when you see how this entire, what seems to be a confusion, suddenly lights up with brilliant clarity, and then we'll also understand the esoteric part of it, the deeper element of it. It's very rich. So bear with me, even if it's a bit technical at the beginning. The Ohr HaChaim HaKadosh, okay, one of the great commentators, he suggests an answer of why the Torah has to tell you over here in Parshas Beha'aloshcha that the menorah has to be made out of one piece. Even though it stated it already, as we said earlier in Parshas Truma, it says already the menorah has to be made out of one piece. He says because when you get to this Parshas Beha'aloshcha and you read the verses that we just read, this might give you an impression that the menorah, the future menorahs, doesn't have to be made out of one piece. In other words, he's going similar to the Nachmanides, that we're talking about that if for future generations the menorah needs to always be one piece. But he gives an extra reason why we would think now, why we would think that for future, from something the Pasuk said over here, this might give us an impression that the future menorah for future generations does not have to be for one piece. Why? Because he, based on many questions that he has a very interesting interpretation of what means Beha'aloshcha es haneros. Let's translate the word. What does Beha'aloshcha mean? When you will raise up. Beha'aloshcha means to lift up, which is not the usual word you use for lighting a lamp. It should say, the Hebrew word for lighting a lamp should be Beha'aloshcha, when you will light. Follow? Madlik, when we light Shabbos candles, we say Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbos. I think that's what you say, because I don't say it. And I think Lahadlik, or the Chanukah, or the Chanukah menorah, we say Lahadlik Ner Shel Chanukah. Okay? So Lahadlik means to light. Lahalos means to bring up. So what's the bringing up? So the Orach Chaim says it's not a very interesting pirush. It's not referring to the actual kindling. It's not referring to kindling. He says an interesting thing. He says the menorah was a candelabra, right? It had a 7-branch candelabra. It had a center middle, and then 3 branches coming out on each side. As we said earlier, it was made out of one piece of gold. Beautiful. There was only one part that was attached that was not part of the menorah. And that was on the top, the actual cups where the oil went in. These were removable cups. It would screw it on and screw it off. And the lamps. So therefore, he says, that the actual thing is that every day when they lit the menorah, they would take the lamps off and screw it off, clean it, put in whatever it is, and then they would put it back on and they would screw it on. Okay, they would put and that's the meaning of Beha'aloshcha es haneros. Neros are not the flames. Neros are the cups, the lamps, the cups of it. So Beha'aloshcha es haneros means when you, Aaron, high priest, will assemble the menorah every day. By doing what? By putting on the lamps, actually screwing on the lamps that he's going to put on, these 7 lamps on the top. Then, what's his mitzvah? He has to make sure that the lamps are put on in a way that the tilting a little bit towards the middle. That's the commandment. We're not talking about the wicks. We're not talking about the flames. We're talking about the cups. Beha'aloshcha es haneros. And that's why he doesn't use the word Beha'aloshcha, because we're not talking about lighting. We're talking about putting on the cups. When you put on the cups which are detached. So therefore, once you're hearing that what? When you're reading these verses, you're hearing that what? That the upper lamps were not, even though they're part of the menorah, they're still detached. And every day you put them on, that might give you an impression that perhaps the rest of the menorah doesn't either have to be a one piece. So that's why once the Torah just mentioned this whole process of screwing on these pieces, it needs to come back and emphasize, you should know that for all generations you have to make a one-piece menorah. It can't be an assembled menorah. In other words, even though we know already in Parshas Truma that it said initially when Hashem told Moshe to tell Bezalel to make the menorah, it needed to be out of one piece of gold. You might think that that's the original menorah. But the menorah of the future, when if for whatever reason you're going to make a new menorah, it doesn't have to be from one piece. Why would you think so? Because in this week's parsha it speaks about Beha'aloshcha es haneros, adding neros to the menorah, adding lamps to the menorah, which are really part of the menorah, yet they're separated. That might give you the false impression that the menorah could be an assembled menorah. Therefore, the Torah has to tell you here, after these psukim, no, the menorah must be one chunk of gold. That's his explanation. Again, let's see if we could say Rashi probably thought the same thing. Again, it doesn't work for Rashi. It's a very nice pirush for the Orach Chaim, but this will not cover Rashi for not explaining it, for a simple reason. Rashi explicitly does not learn Beha'aloshcha means when you will put up the lamps. Again, the Orach Chaim has a very unique way of understanding what means Beha'aloshcha. It doesn't mean kindling the menorah. It means screwing on the lamps. Oh, now we might say Rashi also learned that way, but Rashi, and by the way, the Cheskuni, who's another one of the Mefarshim on Chumash, in his second Pirush, learns the same like the Orach Chaim. It's a Chiddush, it's a beautiful Pirush. Beha'aloshcha is not talking about lighting the menorah, it's talking about putting on the lamps every day, which are separate pieces. By the way, I want to share with you something that made me kvel. Kvel is a Yiddish word for delight. The Orach Chaim actually brings an argument from the Talmud if the lamps were one piece, or the lamps were, you were able to take the lamps off. It's an argument in the Talmud. But the Orach Chaim is so sweet. He says, I never saw this in his words. He says, if I would have been there during, now again, the Orach Chaim lived in the same time in the Baal Shem Tov, 250 years ago. He says, if I would have lived 2,000 years ago with the sages, I would have so clearly proven to them that these lamps were removable. And he goes on to bring a bunch of proofs. I love the way he says, if I was there, I would have given them all the proofs to settle this, that for sure the lamps were separate pieces. That's just parenthetically. Just that the Orach Chaim had the ability to be able to write that in his book, that if I would be there, I would have proven to the sages that it is this way and not that way. It's just an interesting idea. But anyways, why doesn't it work for Rashi? It doesn't work for Rashi because Rashi has a different interpretation what means Beha'aloshcha. Rashi doesn't say Beha'aloshcha when you put on the lamps. Rashi says Beha'aloshcha is referring to the flames. If so, why doesn't it say when you will light it? Why does it say Beha'aloshcha when you will lift it up? So Rashi says you have to wait until the flames really catch on. Because when you light a fire, you put a candle to another candle. It's like for a second, both wicks will burn. The second wick, but it doesn't mean that the second wick caught fire. That it's burning itself. It's having its own Beha'aloshcha. Halav oile. The flame is rising on its own. So that's why the pasuk is saying that you have to stand there and wait until it really catches on. So you see clearly from this that Rashi is learning that Beha'aloshcha is not referring to screwing on the lamps. No, Beha'aloshcha actually means putting up the flames. If that's the case, why then would you have thought in any reason that the menorah could be made up of many pieces? Why would you have thought it over here? There's nothing in our verses that would provoke that thought that needs to be emphasized. Okay. The Orach Chaim says, according to his interpretation, yes, it needs to be emphasized, but not according to Rashi. Okay, so we're left with that question, and let me review the question. Again, what's our question? We tried to resolve it by giving answers from Nachmanides, Ramban, and Orach Chaim. It doesn't work for Rashi. What's the question? The Torah is telling you a mitzvah over here to light the menorah, and about lighting the menorah that you have to make sure that the lamps are shining towards the middle, and then suddenly out of nowhere we're talking about a menorah being made out of one piece. That's the question. What's Pasuk Dalid doing over here in the midst of Parshas Beha'aloshcha? It doesn't belong here. If anything, it belongs in Parshas Truma or in Parshas Emor, where in those two parshas you're also speaking about the menorah and the midst of lighting lamps. It doesn't belong over here. Now the next question, and here is the next question. Simple question. What is the mitzvah that is discussed in the beginning of Parshas Beha'aloshcha? What's the mitzvah? The mitzvah is, when you light the menorah, make sure that they're all burning towards the middle. So you would think that, what does that mean? Take all the wicks, tilt them towards the middle. And that's a new mitzvah that we don't know. But that's also not new. We go to Parshas Shmois. I take out my Chumash to Sefer Shmois. And we open up Parshas Truma. Initially, the parsha that talks about the construction, the making of the menorah. And we look at Perek Chav Hei, Pasuk Lamed Zayin, chapter 25, verse 37. Look what it says.
After it's finished telling you about making the menorah, it says, V'asisa es neiroiseha. You should make its lamps. Shiva, make 7 lamps. This, by the way, is one of the proofs of the Orach Chaim that the lamps were made separately. They're not one piece. Because after the Torah finished telling you about the menorah, then afterwards it says make the lamps. So the lamps again are the cups that go on the top. Good. Vasisas neiroisel shiva, you should make the lamps 7 of them. Veheles neiroisel, and you should put up those lamps. Veheir, they should shine al aver panel, to the side of its face. So what does that mean, that you should put up the lamps, that they should shine towards the side of its face? So Rashi explains in Parshas Truma, it means that initially when he constructed the lamps, he was to make a certain groove in the lamps so that the wick, when the wick will protrude from the lamp, the wick will be bent automatically, or I don't know if it's a groove in the thing, but to build it in a way, should make the lamps in a way that they're tilting towards the center. The 3 lamps on the west side should be going towards the middle. The 3 lamps in the east side should be going towards the center. They're both going towards the center. Rashi says over there, it's not in Parshas Truma, it's not the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. It's not talking about lighting the menorah, it's talking about making the menorah. But Rashi says, why is the Torah telling you this here? Because Rashi is saying, because the Torah wants to tell you that the menorah has to be made originally in a way that when you put those lamps on, they're tilting towards the center. If that's the case, we have already been told in Parshas Truma, the mitzvah, that everything is supposed to shine towards the middle. Veheir al aver paneha, that all 6 lamps, or all 6, should all be towards the 7th lamp, the one that's in the middle. So this mitzvah has also been already stated in Parshas Truma. There is nothing new in Parshas Beha'aloshcha about lamps. The one thing it tells you is that when you light, tell Aaron, when you light the menorah, make sure they're all burning towards the middle. But it's that was said already earlier. That was said already in Parshas Truma, that when you light, so there's no chiddush. And even though Rashi really asked, think about it, Rashi already asked us, what is this Parsha Beha'aloshcha doing over here in Bamidbar? But Rashi only asked, seeming to say, Rashi is like saying, I don't need this verse. Rashi's not asking why it's stated. Rashi seems to be understanding why it's stated. The essential verse is needed. And Rashi's only explaining why it's next to last week's parsha. What's the connection of last week's inauguration of the Mishkan to this commandment? So Rashi says that is because Aaron was feeling bad, like we said earlier, and Hashem comforted him, telling him that he's going to have this great mitzvah. Okay? Fine. But Rashi's not asking the question, why do we even need this whole thing? Rashi doesn't say anything about that. Is a sign that Rashi felt that the essential need is needed. The essential verse to teach you this mitzvah. But this mitzvah stated earlier already. It's stated already. You might answer, hear this. Or to make the question much stronger. Not only is it unnecessary, but the whole content of the commandment doesn't make any sense. What are you commanding Aaron? When you light the menorah, that it should be burning towards the middle. That's the whole thing. The whole 2 verses over here is telling you one halacha. When you light the menorah, light them towards the middle. But there's no other way to light them. If already when you made the menorah, it was made tilted already. At the construction of the menorah, it was a tilted menorah. It's, slightly tilted. Somehow, it's made that the neiros themselves, the cups themselves, when you put them on the menorah, are tilting towards the middle. If that is already there in the construction, what are you telling me now a story? I have a mitzvah to light it towards the middle. What kind of mitzvah is it? It's done. It's automatic. When you light the menorah, it will be towards the middle. That question is asked by Sefer Divrei David. Divrei David is the Taz, one of the great commentaries on Shulchan Aruch. So he asked that question. What's the content of this commandment? There's no commandment here. To answer the question, Rashi is very careful. If you look carefully in Rashi answers this question. When we took a look in the words in the verse of Rashi over here, I want to show you. When it says over here that you should light it towards the middle, hear these words. Parshas, let me get you the pasuk. Hold on. Yeah. Hold on. We're going to get to there. Hold on. Rashi says, hold it. I'm sorry, I went here. I went too far. Hear these words. Ya'iru shiva sanerois, el mul penei menorah. Let me read Rashi. El mul ner amtsoi, towards the middle one. She'enoi bekanim, that's not on the branches. Towards the middle one. El beguf shel menorah, only the middle branch, fine. Ya'iru shiva sanerois, hear well. Shishal shal sheishes akanim. The other 6 lamps that are on the 6 branches, shloisha hamizrachiyim poinim lemul amtsoi. The 3 ones on the right are directed towards the middle. But here Rashi adds these 2 words. Hear these words very carefully. Hapsilois shalahem. Their wicks. Rashi adds 2 words. He doesn't just say the neros, he says the wicks. V'chein shloisha hamaraviyim, also the western ones. Here Rashi adds again 2 words. Roshei hapsilois, the tops of the wicks. L'mulam tzai should be towards the middle. By Rashi adding these 2 words, 3 words about the wicks, Rashi is giving you the answer. What is he telling you? Even though we learned in Parshas Truma already that the menorah is made that the lamps themselves are tilting towards the middle, there is another mitzvah, and that mitzvah is upon the one who's lighting the menorah, that is Aaron. In addition to the menorah having a tilted lamps towards the middle, Aaron has to take each wick and tilt them a little bit towards the middle. So the menorah's lights are all facing the middle because of 2 reasons. Number 1, it's from the construction initially. The menorah is constructed where the lamps are shining towards the middle. That's number 1. Number 2, you also have to take the wicks and tilt them towards the middle. That you see from Rashi. Now, if that's the case, so now we understand. Now we understand really well what is new over here and what is the mitzvah. You can't tell me that this happens automatically or this is stated in Parshas Truma. In Parshas Truma it says, make a menorah that's tilting towards the middle. In our parsha, the pasuk is adding, it's a commandment on Aaron who's lighting the menorah every day to make them tilt towards the middle. But if that's the case, here is the question. Follow along. Here is the question. Let's go back to the pasuk. Beha'aloshcha saneros, when you will light the lamps, el mul penei ha-menorah, towards the center of the menorah, ya'iru, it should shine shiva saneros. Now, isn't that interesting that it says ya'iru in the passive? It should shine. Why doesn't it say, what would have been more consistent? Beha'aloshcha saneros, when you will light the lamps, el mul penei ha-menorah, towards the menorah, ta'iru, you should make it ta'ir shiva saneros. If this is, again, that the beginning says when you will do an act, so the act should be, what kind of activity should it be? It should be an activity in which you're tilting the wicks towards the middle. Why does it say, when you light the menorah, make sure it will be shining towards the middle? It's not a passive thing, what should happen. It's more the commandment of what you should do. Again, that's only if we're going to learn, like Rashi, who just now added to us a very big thing, that in addition to the construction of the menorah being initially tilted, there is an extra mitzvah to tilt the wicks. Then we have this question. If there's no mitzvah to tilt the wicks, because automatically already the lamps are burning towards the middle, then we can understand well why it doesn't say you should make it burn towards the middle. When you will light the menorah, it should burn towards the middle, because you're not doing it. It's already done already. So again, the Orach Chaim, by the way, remember, let's go back to the Orach Chaim. The Orach Chaim was the one that says Beha'aloshcha does not mean lighting the menorah. Beha'aloshcha means when you put the menorah's cups on, you should put them on in a way that they're tilting the middle. Oh, so he actually brings this nuance as a proof. He says, why doesn't it say Ya'ir? Why does it say Ya'iru, it should shine, not Ta'iru, you should make it shine? He says because at the time of the activity that the Torah is speaking about is not the lighting of the menorah. The Torah is speaking about the activity of screwing on the lamps. At that time, it's not burning yet. So what your act that you are doing is not making it be. When you are putting on these lamps, make sure that later, when whoever is going to light it, it should shine. It will shine towards the middle. But that's very good according to the Orach Chaim. But Rashi that learns Beha'aloshcha doesn't mean screwing on the lamps. But Beha'aloshcha means actually igniting the menorah. And according to Rashi, we see clearly that when you light the menorah, you have to actually take every wick. In addition to the menorah being initially fashioned that way, that they're tilted towards the middle. In addition to that, you have to take every wick and build it and bend it over. So why does the verse say it should burn towards the middle? Why doesn't it say you should make it burn towards the middle? Because you're the one that's doing it. That's the question. Okay, so we asked the questions. So now, hold on for a brilliant answer. So the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, gives such an exciting answer. It's just it got me so excited because you see what happens when someone learns Torah Lishma. When someone turns Torah, not for ulterior motives, but when someone learns Torah for the right way, the entire Torah is lit up. And you see things that no one else sees. You see such clarity, such depth, such clarity, such truth. So watch, listen, hear well. Here is a very, 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 and again, take a little bit of your brains. I know it's 8:30, 8:40 at night, and some of you are yawning. When Mashiach is going to come, we're going to learn 18 hours a day. Let's get used to it now, okay? So now, watch the depth over here. There is a general argument between Rashi and Ramban, Rashi and Nachmanides, in regards to the three parshiyos that the Torah speaks about menorah. In the Torah, there are three places where the Torah speaks about menorah. The first one is in Parshas Truma, where the Torah tells you about making the menorah. The second one is in Parshas, and I want to say that Parshas Truma has two parts, Truma and Tetzaveh, because Truma and Tetzaveh are both about making the Mishkan. So I'm going to call the Tetzaveh, where we're talking also about making olive oil and so on, let's call that all part of place number one. That is Parshas Truma, Tetzaveh, we're talking about building a Mishkan, and over there it talks about the menorah. That's number one. The second place it speaks about making the menorah is in Parshas Emor. We're over there, it's together with the Lechem Apanim, together with the showbread, it's Parshas HaMenorah. And over there it says that every day Aaron should light the menorah in the morning, when he does the Ketores, and in the afternoon he should light the menorah, and so on and so forth. Parshas Emor is the second place. The third place is right over here in Parshas Beha'aloshcha. Now Rashi, interesting. Now obviously you need some explanation. Why do you need three parshios of menorah? Same mitzvah, three parshios, three places. And each one is in a different chumash. What do you need three? So carefully analyzing Rashi, you see as follows. Rashi says the first parsha, which is Teruma and Tetzaveh, is not about kindling the lamps, Rashi says. It's about the mitzvah of making a Mishkan. Including in the Mishkan is the menorah. Rashi calls it, it's Maisa HaMishkan. It's the work of the Mishkan. The Mishkan needs vessels. One of the vessels in the Mishkan is a menorah. So it tells you about the menorah. And Rashi says, by the way, even though there it talks about lighting the menorah, it says you should get pure olive oil and so on. It's only matter of fact. That's not really what the Torah is talking about. The Torah is talking about you should make a menorah. It's only that you're going to wonder what's the menorah for. So the Torah is telling you some details about lighting the menorah, but it's not the mitzvah of lighting the menorah at all. That's what Rashi says in Parshas Emor. That when it says in Tetzaveh, you should command the Jewish people that they should bring olive oil and light the menorah, and Aaron should light it in the morning to evening. All that is not the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. It's the mitzvah of making a Mishkan. It's just that the Torah is telling you a little bit about the Mishkan and about the usage of these various different things. So again, according to Rashi, Parshas Truma is a parsha of Mishkan in general. Fine. Parshas Emor, Rashi says clearly, that parsha is mitzvahs haneros. It's the mitzvah regarding the lamps. Every day, it's a mitzvah to light lamps. So again, if I asked you, quiz, where does the Torah speak about the mitzvah of lighting lamps? You're commanded. You know, the Torah gives you 613 commandments. Where is the commandment to light the menorah every day? Don't give me Parshas Truma Tetzaveh. You'll give me which parsha, according to Rashi? Parshas Emor, that's the mitzvah lighting the menorah. Fine. How about the third parsha? Our parsha. What's this parsha all about? So Rashi calls this parsha with an interesting name. Now please listen carefully. Rashi refers to this parsha as Parshas HaMenorah. Rashi says, Lo monismecha Parshas HaMenorah. Why was the parsha of Menorah placed next to the other parsha that we spoke about, the inauguration of the Nesiim? So you see, again, with Rashi we have to be very precise. Rashi defines. He just gave you a definition. The parsha in Beha'aloshcha is called Parshas HaMenorah. So therefore, let's see now according to that. We have three parshiyos. A parsha of Mishkan, which the menorah is included in as part of the Mishkan. A mitzvah for lighting lamps, that's the second one in Parshas Emor. And a third parsha, it's the parsha of Menorah. The third parsha. Nachmanides disagrees with Rashi. And if you look carefully, I'm not going to go through them in a way. In fact, I don't want to schlep this a little long, too long. But Nachmanides learns that all three parshiyos are really one mitzvah. All three of them. The one in Teruma, the one in Emor, and the one over here. It's all one mitzvah. It's all part of the one mitzvah, mitzvahs haneros, the mitzvah to light the lamps. It's all one thing. If so, why do I need three portions? So Nachmanides says, each place adds details that were not mentioned earlier. The Torah slowly reveals to you this mitzvah. It gives you the main part of the mitzvah already in Parshas Tetzaveh, which is the mitzvah of lighting the menorah with pure olive oil. You do it in the evening and so on and so forth until the morning. That is discussed in Parshas Tetzaveh. Another detail is given to you in Parshas Emor. The Ramban points out two things that are new in Parshas Emor. Two things that are new in Parshas Emor. The two things that are new in Parshas Emor, I'm not going to speak the first one because I don't want to distract you. The second one is the main important one. The main news that we get in Parshas Emor is he says that you need to always light the lamps on a menorah. That means you might think it's a mitzvah to light lamps. And even though in Parshas Truma it said that you have to make a menorah, that's the most desirable way. Initially in the Mishkan they made a menorah. But really the main thing, you can take 8 lamps and put them on the table. You don't need a menorah. So in Parshas Emor, the Torah is adding to you that the mitzvah of the lamps must mean on a menorah. He says, and he proves it, the pasuk says over there, Al ha-menorah ha-tahira, on a pure menorah. So that's the main detail that it gives you in Parshas Emor. But it's all continuation to Parshas Tetzaveh. There's a mitzvah to light lamps. Parshas Emor adds, it's like when you, I was busy signing a lease over here the other day for this place. So you have the main lease and then you have an amendment. I think that's what they call it. An amendment. So you have the main parsha and now we have an amendment. What's the amendment? That you should know, and I didn't tell you one law, it must be on a menorah. Good. That's Parshas Emor. How about Parshas Beha'aloshcha? Amendment number 2. What is that? The menorah must be, not just a menorah, you must light a menorah where it's all pointing towards the middle. That's, according to Ramban, that's the main thing over here. That you have a mitzvah to light, you have to light candles. But what kind of candles? I don't want you to stop lighting candles. I want you to light candles on a menorah. And not only light candles on a menorah, I want you to light candles on a menorah in a way where the menorah is tilting towards the middle, the candles are burning towards the middle. That's according to the Ramban. So it's one thing called mitzvahs haneros. Rashi clearly says, nope, 3 distinct parshas. A parsha of what? A parsha of the Mishkan, that's the first one. Parshas Emor, the second parsha, is the parsha of the Neros, the mitzvah to light the Neros. The third parsha is Parshas HaMenorah. Okay? So now we have Rashi's idea. Based on this, we will see something really, really spectacular. If we're saying that our parsha is Parshas HaMenorah, this parsha is the Parsha HaMenorah, you right away will say, how can you call this parsha the parsha of the menorah, Parshas Beha'aloshcha, when the main thing it speaks about Parshas Beha'aloshcha is not about the menorah? What does it speak about in the beginning of Parshas Beha'aloshcha? About the mitzvah that when Aaron lights the menorah, he should light it towards the middle. So it's a mitzvah of kindling. It's not a parsha of, we're not describing menorah over here. We're describing the mitzvah of lighting the menorah, which is you have to light the menorah when it's burning towards the middle. Especially according to Rashi, that he says that it's a mitzvah on the Kohen to turn the wicks. That's the main thing that's stated in this parsha. So again, Rashi defines this parsha. Rashi defines this parsha as Parshas HaMenorah. But it doesn't, how can Rashi refer to this parsha as Parshas HaMenorah? What does Parshas HaMenorah mean? It's the parsha about the menorah, when the main theme of these 4 psukim in the beginning of Beha'aloshcha is not about the menorah. The last one is, but the first 3 is not about the menorah. It's about what? The mitzvah, that when you're lighting the menorah, it must shine towards the middle. So drop here already. So now listen to this point, because you missed this point, you missed the whole shit. Okay, so bear with me right now. So the answer over here, so you have to say, that even though the commandment is commanding us about a mitzvah of lighting lamps, the mitzvah of lighting the lamps towards the middle is not about the mitzvah of lighting the lamps, it's about the nature of what the menorah is. In other words, the reason you have to light the lamps to the middle is because they are going, by you doing that, you are going to make the menorah what the menorah really is. So this parsha is a parsha of menorah. It's not a parsha about lighting lamps. It's a parsha of menorah. It's, for some reason, it's almost like to say, the menorah isn't finished until we get to this parsha, that you should light the lamps towards the middle. And when you are lighting the lamps towards the middle, then you are completing the menorah to be a menorah. So it would come out, according to this, before I continue further, Rashi and Nachmanides have a major argument over here. A major argument. According to Nachmanides, the main parsha, Beha'aloshcha, is a mitzvah of lamps. It's the mitzvah to light the menorah. It's not the menorah. The mitzvah is lighting lamps. You have to have fires burning, 7 lamps burning every day. But this mitzvah that they have to burn towards the middle, the mitzvah that they have to burn towards the middle, or even this that it says in the parsha, miksha, that the menorah has to be hammered out from one piece, even that detail that the menorah has to be made out of, has nothing to do with the menorah. It's what kind of lamps are you supposed to light, according to the Nachmanides. What kind of neiros are you supposed to light? You have to light neiros that are on a menorah. And what type of menorah? A menorah that's made out of one piece, and a menorah that's tilting towards the middle. That's according to Ramban. Comes out according to the Ramban that the hammered out menorah is only to facilitate the mitzvah of lighting candles. Your mitzvah is done properly when you have a one-piece menorah. Rashi is totally opposite. Rashi is saying like this, your main objective over here is to have a menorah. There is a mitzvah to have a menorah. The fact that you're lighting the lamps, they are helping the menorah be a menorah. The fact that you're lighting the lamps towards the middle, they're helping the menorah to be a menorah. It's a total different perspective. But why? Why is it that lighting the lamps towards the middle are making the menorah be a menorah? So I'm going to squeeze your brain just for another 2 minutes. I promise you, please give me the inspiration is coming. I see in so many that look, oh, Rabbi, hacking me on with these details over here. We're waiting for some inspiration, Rabbi. Every week you give us inspiration. You're giving me a menorah with Rashi and Ramban. I promise you it's coming. Have Rahmanis on me and let's get this through. Because this is brilliant. Not my brilliance. So here's the idea. Follow. You see, when you learn in Parshas Truma about making the menorah out of one piece, it's gewaldig. What does the pasuk say? I'm going to read to you the pasuk in Truma. V'asisa menorah zav tar. Again, if you missed this point, then you're missing the class. So bear with me. It says you should make a menorah out of pure gold. Miksha teyasa menorah. The menorah should be made out of one piece. And the pasuk emphasized Yerecha its base, Kana its main pipe, Giviyaha her cups, Kaftareha her knobs, Ufracheha and her flowers. Mimeno Yia all should be from one piece. So there's an emphasis it has to be made out of one piece. But if you paid attention, it was only speaking about the middle part of the menorah. The middle part is its main branch. It has cups carved out of it. It has flowers. It has knobs. All of it needs to be one piece. After that, the pasuk adds another verse. 6 branches come out from one side, 6 branches come out from the other side. From the way the pasuk is saying it, it kind of emphasized the one piece element, that it's all one, is only the center. That's our one piece. The 6 branches on the 2 sides, even though technically Rashi, the verse says clearly it should come out of it. Yoitze mitzideh should come out. That means you don't add them later. You don't take crazy glue, make a thing, or meld it on, or weld it on, and weld it on through a welding process. You have to make it from one piece. But from the verses you can see, after you made the menorah, you don't have any way of seeing that these 6 branches are really one piece with the middle. Maybe it was welded. You don't know. You don't see it. There's nothing there indicate. The middle branch, you can see it's all one. But that's why the verse says in the beginning, miksha, you should hammer the whole thing out. But when it comes to the next verse, it says 3 coming out of one side, 3 coming out of the other side. And there's nothing looking at it, there's nothing there showing you that these branches are all one piece, especially if someone is not watching the person making it. In the end, they couldn't make it, they threw it into a fire, it made on its own. But if someone is not there watching Bezalel or whoever it is making it, you have no idea that these pieces were all made out of one piece. You don't see it. So here the brilliance. So the pasuk is saying, but since the menorah really does have to be one piece, when will you see a one-piece menorah? When Aaron Beha'aloshcha, when you light the menorah, the pasuk says over here, in Parshas Beha'aloshcha, I want to give you the menorah. Now the Torah is saying, Rashi refers to it, this is the parsha of menorah. You want to know, you need to know what the menorah is. The menorah is a one-piece candelabra. How do you know that? Because when Aaron lights the menorah, he has to light it in a way that all of them are tilting towards the middle. What does that do to the viewer, to the person who's watching the menorah burning? What does he see? He sees a center middle, and he sees everything is nullified towards the middle. It's all surrendered. It's all part. They're all tilting towards the middle. From the fact that when he's lighting the menorah, they're all being lit towards the middle, that is completing the menorah. That's making the menorah be a one-piece menorah. So the parsha over here is not a parsha about lighting lamps. The parsha of lighting lamps was stated earlier, the Parshas Emor. This parsha comes to highlight the menorah. What kind of menorah do we have? A menorah that's all one. You want to see the oneness of the menorah? Wait. Beha'aloshcha, when you light the menorah, you will light them all that they're all facing to the middle, and then your menorah will be one. And now we'll understand why the Torah says that verse. What was the first question I started the class with? How come the Torah says suddenly over here the mitzvah that it should be one? It should be hammered out as one. Now we understand. This last verse, Pasuk Dalet, according to Rashi, is clarifying the last two verses. You might think that the mitzvah of lighting the menorah towards the center is about your mitzvah of lighting lamps. That the mitzvah of lamps, it's something to do with the person doing it. That when he lights the lamps, it should be towards the middle. That's not what it is. It's not about the lighting of it. It's about the menorah. The lit menorah. What kind of a menorah is it? A menorah that's one. What's going to bring out and reveal and express the intrinsic oneness of the menorah? The lighting of the lamps. How do you see that? The pasuk emphasizes, V'zeh masa ha-menorah. This is the work of the menorah. Miksha. It's all hammered out. And take a look. That's why the pasuk over here in this time, in Beha'aloshcha, when it says miksha, it should be hammered out, it doesn't give you much detail. It just says ad yarecha from its base, ad pircha to its flower. It doesn't say like it says in Truma, the flowers, the this, the that, because that doesn't want to say that. It wants to give you the emphasis. The entire thing from top to bottom is one thing. If you look in Rashi over here, Rashi says also, hold on, the words Rashi uses very Pircha, ad yarecha, ad pircha, Rashi says, Koloimar, gufa shel menorah, the body of the menorah, kula, entirely, the cholat toluba, and everything that's dependent on it. The entire menorah is a one-piece menorah. And again, that oneness of the menorah is only seen after you light it. The lighting of the lamps towards the middle brings the menorah together for the menorah to be a menorah. This will also answer the other question. How come it doesn't say, what was the question we asked? If the mitzvah is for the Kohen to light each one and tilt the wicks towards the middle, how come it doesn't say ya'iru? It doesn't say ta'ir, you should do it. It says el mul pnei menorah, towards the center of the menorah, ya'iru, they should shine. Shouldn't we be emphasizing the act of doing it? When you light the menorah, tilt them all towards the middle? That's the mitzvah? No, it says ya'iru, they should shine. Now we understand why. Because the main idea over here is the Torah is not speaking of the mitzvah of lighting. The main objective over here is not the mitzvah of lighting. The main objective is the effect. What kind of an effect is it going to have? What's the effect? The effect is that they're all going to shine towards the middle. So the menorah is going to be a one carved out menorah. And that's, by the way, also where Rashi gives the reason why they all have to shine towards the middle. Rashi says you shouldn't say that God needs the light, that Hashem needs light. Hashem doesn't need it. That's why if you spread out all the lamps going in different directions, like over here, if you look at the roof, we have lights, and it's made in a way that they're moving in different directions. A little shining here, shining over there, shining over there. So the menorah is not that way, because they're all towards the middle, showing it minimizes the light. But from that, you also see the same idea. By lighting the menorah in a certain way, it will tell you about what the menorah itself is about. It tells you about the menorah. That the menorah is not here as a candelabra to give light. It has a spiritual meaning. Not to give light. God doesn't need the light. So you see that the way you're lighting it is defining the menorah. That's according to Rashi. Good. So what is the spiritual significance over here? So the spiritual significance over here comes out as follows. According to this, we have a major argument. We all agree that what? That when we light the menorah, we have to light the menorah where all the lamps are burning towards the middle. The question is, in which direction are we going? According to Nachmanides, the reason the menorah is one chunk, miksha, it's all a hammered out menorah. And this that the menorah is all so that you can light lamps. The main objective is lighting the 7 individual lamps. That's the objective. As we said earlier, what kind of lamps do they have to be? They have to be on a menorah. And not only they have to be on a menorah, they have to be on a one-piece menorah. So what's the purpose? The purpose is the mitzvah of lighting the lamps. Remember, Nachmanides says, all 3 portions of the Torah are all about the commandment to light the lamps. According to Rashi, it's the total opposite direction. Even the mitzvah of lighting the lamps and lighting them towards the middle is so that the menorah will be a one-piece menorah. It's all about the menorah, not about the lamps. And even the detail and the commandment of Aaron lighting the lamps in a specific way, they too is not about the lamps. It's in order to make the menorah be a menorah that is explicitly expressing the idea that it's one menorah. So what does this tell us about life? 2 approaches, 2 very important approaches. Who is the menorah? Ner Hashem nishmas Adam. The soul of man is a lamp. Every neshama is a lamp in this world to illuminate the world. These lamps are initially one ball of gold. Why? Because all of our souls are one soul. There is no many souls. We all originate as an indivisible piece of God. And therefore all neshamas are one entity. There is no difference. Beginning of the Alter Rebbe, the Shneur Zalman of Liadi says in Tanya, he speaks about our neshamas. He says, Kulan Perek Lamed Beis, very important chapter to learn many times. Kulan Mas Imois, all neshamas are exactly even. V'av Echad L'Kulana, and we all have one Father. And all souls are completely unified. And you can't have a bigger soul, a smaller, we're all one. That's in our original quintessential source. Our souls are all one. And that's expressed in the idea that the menorah is miksha, it's hammered from one piece. But then the menorah comes out into full expression. And when the menorah comes out into full expression, there are 7 individual lamps. As explained in Chassidus and Chassidic discourses, 7 lamps represent the individual service of each individual Jew. The Jewish people are divided into 7 general modes of service connected to the 7 sfirot, the 7 attributes. 7 divine attributes, 7 types of souls. Some neshamas, their main service and main contribution is chesed, kindness. Other neshamas, they're here in this world to fight battles. They're mainly about discipline. And other ones are mainly about submission. And others are about regality and royalty, influence with speech, and so forth and so on. These are neshamas, each neshama is different. Now really there's 7, but the idea that they're divided into 7 really means that later they become divided into the 600,000 souls, because that every neshama is different is a combination of the sfirot. Every neshama represents a unique combination of various different attributes. So it really, the origins are the 7, but from the 7, they're blended into the gazillion different types of souls that there are. So the 7 lamps individually represent you as an individual, your unique contribution that only you can do, no other person can do in the world. There's you and you, your godly light that you need to shine on the world. You're a neshama, you're a piece of God, but you're uniquely carved and shaped in a way that no other person has ever been shaped. And as a Jew, you're a major expresser of divine light in this world in your own way that only you can do. Your own mitzvahs, your own unique personality that make you you. Now comes the Kohen. What's the job of the Kohen? That's the tzaddik. That's the Rebbe. And what's his job? His job is to fire up the souls. We fall asleep on the job. We forget that we're beautiful souls, we're godly beings. Sometimes we think we're nothing more than our body, than a sack of physical flesh, bones and flesh. Sometimes we forget. We think our life is about eating and drinking and having a physical, material good time, and we forget that we're here. God needs us in this world. Hashem sent us to illuminate, to shine, to give, to show of the Eibishter's beauty in this world. So we need a tzaddik. So the Zohar says that Aaron HaKohen, who is really the source of every tzaddik, of every Rebbe, whose main inyan is to fire up the Jewish people, inflame them in their service. The Zohar says that he's called Shoshvina de Matrenisa. He is the one who brings the bride towards the groom. He carries the kala towards the chassid. That means Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who brings God to the world. By bringing Torah to the world, he's called the escort of the groom. Aaron is called the escort of the bride. Every day Aaron brings out our beauty, our light of each individual Jew. The idea that all the lamps need, when you light the menorah, it needs to shine towards the middle, means that when you ignite, when you're ignited, when you're serving Hashem as an individual Jew, when you are being you in the most beautiful way you can be you, and you do what no other person can do and make your beautiful contribution, you cannot do that as an independent being, that you have your thing. It doesn't work that way. You're part of one menorah. And yet your light has to shine towards the middle. That means that even you have to be very cognizant of your individuality, but at the same time you have to realize that the main being of who you are is one idea. You are the menorah of God in this world, and you're here to serve your Creator. I'm here to serve my Creator, and that I share with all other billion souls that there are, millions of souls. All other millions of souls of the Jewish people throughout all the generations. I share a common denominator. The deepest point is all the same. We're all here for a singular mission, to serve our Creator. What that service is, every person is different, is unique and special. But that must be sensed in your service. It's not chas v'shalom. If you're doing your own thing and you're about yourself and about you and about what you are, then you're losing touch with the singular unity, which is God, which that's the whole point of it, to bring Hashem into the world. Hashem's unity has to shine through our individuality, through our uniqueness. But when Aaron ignites our souls, and when we get excited to do what we need to do as a Jew, shine towards the middle. Appreciate that you're not you as you're you as all millions of Jews expressing their godliness through you. But we're all focused towards one thing. We're all unified as one, because we're all served. My service might be very different than yours, but at the core we're the same, because we're all serving Hashem. It might be so different. That's the meaning, that all of them have to be towards the middle. Now that concept, that all of them have to create one menorah, can be appreciated on two levels. Rashi's appreciation of it, or Nachmanides' appreciation of it. What do we mean by that? The way the unity and the individuality, the singular and the multiplicity of our beings are joined together, the way they connect, can be in two opposite modes. There is the simple mode and there is the deeper mode. Rashi stays on the simple plane. The reason why Rashi stays on the simple plane, because Rashi wrote his Pirush for 5-year-old children. Rashi says that. I wrote my Pirush for a Ben Chamesh Lamikra, for a 5-year-old. So Rashi tries to stay as literal, as simple as possible. Therefore, when you learn Rashi, you know that Rashi is like speaking on the more surface level. Ramban Nachmanides includes in his service very deep secrets. He says it in his Pirush. He says in the beginning, in his introduction, that I've included in my book deep secrets. He writes Kabbalistic secrets all the time, Nachmanides. So Nachmanides takes a deeper, more esoteric approach. So on the simple level, as we approach our Judaism and our service to Hashem and our individuality versus our oneness, how does it work? According to Rashi, the main objective and the purpose is one menorah. That means, what's the purpose of our lighting, kindling our lamps? Igniting your soul. Igniting your soul is to elevate you. To elevate you out of you being you and me being me and all of us being enmeshed in our stupidities. But we should be ignited and focused towards God. And when we all focus towards God, that unifies us together, and all the Jewish people become unified as one, and we transcend all differences, and we are one entity, one with God. So suddenly from the many becomes one. And in a sense, what does that do to the world? It lifts the world up to that unity, because Jews are lifted into the unity. So all the separate different things that every Jew does as an individual all comes together. The purpose is that singular indivisibility that comes about as a result of all of us shining towards the middle. I might be doing an act of tzedakah over here, but my head is towards them, and I'm doing it because I'm surrendered to God. I'm doing what God wants me to do. And you're doing whatever you're doing. You might be studying, and this guy is in deep meditative prayer. Everybody's doing something else, but we're all serving one God. And what's sensed in our service is that oneness. So we transcend all the differences and turn into one. And that's the purpose. So the reason why, again, the reason why we have to put all the fires towards the center is so that we can create one menorah. We can all be one essence, expressing the essence of the oneness of God. That's according to Rashi. Nachmanides is on a step deeper. Nachmanides is already involved with the Chassidic idea. The purpose is not just that we melt into God. The purpose is that God wants to have a home in this world. What's the nature and character of this world, time and space? The nature and character of the world is individualism. Everything in the world is its own character. There's no two flowers that are alike. Each flower is unique. There's no two snowflakes that are alike. Take a look at the snowflakes. They're gorgeous. They're beautiful. Each one with their own design. The beauty of the world is its multifacetedness. And what's the whole purpose? According to Hasidus, the deeper understanding is that God's singular essence should come down and dwell in the time and space and all the multifaceted aspects of creation. Therefore, according to Nachmanides, it's the opposite. The oneness of the menorah is so that you should be able to fulfill the mitzvah of lighting each individual lamp. In other words, the point over here is the individual lamps burning. Every single human being, every single Jew doing his own unique thing. And what? But who's doing it? Jews who are all rooted in one, so that oneness is drawn down and reflected in our lights that we're shining in the world. So the question is, what's the objective? Is the objective to transcend all of our differences and be swept up in that singular essence of God that transcends the world? That's the approach of the spiritualists. From all the generations, the approach always was to get beyond, to free ourselves from the shackles of time and space and to melt into that oneness. So Rashi sees that as the objective. Nachmanides, however, is coming from the deeper Chassidic perspective. The purpose is not transcendence into that oneness. The purpose is that oneness should come down and manifest. God ultimately wants to rest in this world. So the purpose is that the oneness of the menorah should support a 7-candelabra menorah, and that each menorah's light shines in its own beauty, reflecting at its core the essence of oneness, but drawing that down into the individual differences of each and every single one of us. And that is the ultimate menorah, and that's the ultimate light. Two approaches, both of them absolutely true. Question is, what's our emphasis? May we merit very soon to see the lighting of the menorah in the Holy Temple and to experience to experience the mitzvah, not just reading it in the parasha, but actually feeling our unification as we all come together every day when the high priest will light it in the third Beis Hamikdash. Both to feel as we all become suctioned into absolute oneness, and then we should be able to take that absolute oneness and shine it, each and every one of us, in our own unique, beautiful light that is unique to your soul and to your particular expression of God's ultimate truth. And we merit to see that now.